Welcome to the Growth Lab. This is the podcast dedicated to the business of beauty and vitality. Today, we're sitting down with Janesta Noland, the co-founder of Crescendo MD, a pediatric practice in California. Many children's and primary care services. It's really incredible. I'm excited to find out more. This episode is brought to you by MedSpa Accelerator. We help med spas and weight loss clinics solve the bottleneck of inconsistent, unqualified patient leads to achieve a predictable, monthly, scalable revenue without staff burnout. We're absolutely thrilled to have Janesta join us today to discuss the future of aesthetics and these unique treatments. Let's get started. Good morning or good afternoon, Janesta. How are you?
I'm great, Jason. Thanks very much. It's nice to be here with you.
I'm excited to dive into your story, Janesta. I like to frame these conversations simply past, present, and future. We'll start with your origin story, how you got into this demanding but rewarding industry. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pivot over to the present reality of what's working, what's not working, what's causing frictions, and what systems are keeping the lights on. And then finally, we'll look at the future outlook and what's going on for the practice in the next 3 to 5 years. And that way, we'll cover a full of building out a successful practice. Does that sound like a good roadmap?
Sounds great.
Fantastic. All right. Well, you transitioned from traditional practice to pediatrics about 20 years ago to start
Yeah.
Crescendo with Dr. Green. Have you been enjoying that transition to that? And what led to that decision?
Yeah. So I'll back up a little bit because I was in a multi-specialty group practice initially when I finished my training doing pediatrics. And in 2007, as you're mentioning, I left where I was practicing, which was called Menlo Clinic, and started a practice called Burgess Pediatrics, which was an entirely pediatric concierge practice in Silicon Valley. And I was there for about 9 years and then transitioned to another concierge practice that had both adult and pediatric medicine, and that was called private medical.
Okay.
And I private medical for about 7 years, and then in 2021 started Crescendo, which is where I am now, which is also a concierge practice, of course, but has both pediatric and adult medicine. We've also sort of been dipping our toe a little bit in some special subspecialty membership-based practices as well.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. And it looks like the practice now you've kind of evolved and now has 3 primary care doctors and 3 MDs as well.
Yeah, we have 3 adult medicine. We actually have 8 MDs total. We have 3 that do adult primary care and 3 that do pediatric primary care. I'm one of those. And then we have a pediatric ophthalmologist and we have an allergist.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's quite a bit. Gosh, well, there's I don't even know where to start. What do you love about pediatrics? Because
Yeah.
obviously, that you've been in it now for quite a while,
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So is it just the love of children, or is it just curing your diseases, as we would say, or what is it, Janessa?
Well, I mean, I love kids. That would probably be obvious for somebody who would choose to do pediatrics, but I really love families and I love the relationship. And I think I was very lucky to fall into the style of practice that I am currently in because it suits my priorities and my passions very well. I get to know the whole family really well, and I get to interact with the whole family. And we keep a very, very small patient panel in our practice so that the doctors know their patients really, really well.
Okay.
And we try to have the ability to think about our patients, not when they're just in front of us saying, I have this problem, but to be very proactive and kind of thinking about them even when they're not sitting in front of us asking a question.
Yeah.
So that we can provide like pretty personalized, bespoke care in the primary care arena, which is, that's hard to come by. Primary care doctors generally are pretty busy. They work at a pretty fast pace. And, and I've done that. I've been in that kind of a practice. So I love what I'm doing now, where I have like all the time that I need to really think about what's going on with my patients and what they need.
Do you feel like you have a little bit more time to spend with the patients now that things have slowed down from primary care to pediatrics?
Yeah, I definitely have. I can essentially spend as much time as I need with a patient. I mean, and sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 15 minutes, but sometimes it's 2 or 3 hours. It really just kind of depends on what's going on and what we need to accomplish.
Okay, great. And all the services that you offer there, What is the most popular one? Is it just wellness checkups, or is there specific treatments that Crescendo is really known for?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I mean the focus of our practice is primary care, and we do so what we do for adults is probably a little bit different than what we do for pediatrics. I would think on the adult side, especially because of where we are in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of interest in longevity and, aiming for I don't know, like adults are usually pretty savvy to what they need to do to really be their best selves and increase their well-being. On the pediatric side, we just try to set up we try to take care of our kids, teach them how to eat, teach them how to sleep, teach them how to, how to love exercise and how to take care of their body when they exercise so that we help them be the healthiest adult they can be by the time they get there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. And are you guys also doing weight loss over there as well?
We do it for our patients. We don't have like a separate weight loss program, but for any of
Okay.
our patients that are, need that, we of course prescribe, appropriate medications as needed. We have body comp in the office. But all of that is kind of just part of the membership.
Okay. Awesome. Do you do any aesthetics there?
We don't do aesthetics, but we help connect our patients with the right people when they're interested in that.
Okay, great. What's the biggest goal of the practice this year in 2026?
I think our biggest goal is to increase our, I think, adult medicine footprint. We're pretty busy on the pediatric side, but our adult medicine doctors still have capacity. But we're also, looking at expanding the longevity aspect of the practice. And then I would say the other thing I think we're really going to work on this year is the pediatric ophthalmology. And the specific thing that's interesting about that is our doctor is also does adult strabismus surgery. And strabismus is when your eyes don't line up properly. In
I think I have that.
pediatrics, yeah, like so some people have an eye that turns in or out or something like that, or they
Yeah.
don't move synchronously. And what happens if that occurs when you're a baby is the brain cannot tolerate the double vision. And so the brain will pick one eye and then the brain will shut down the part that takes input from the other eye. So you essentially become like blind in one eye because the brain can't tolerate double vision. So having misaligned eyes is almost an emergency, but something that needs to be dealt with very early if it occurs in childhood. People who make it to adulthood without having their eyes aligned, that vision loss is permanent. So straightening the eyes essentially becomes a cosmetic surgery. It's not medical anymore because you can't re-achieve the visual acuity.
Yeah.
So a lot of adult ophthalmologists or adult eye surgeons don't want to do that surgery because it's cosmetic. So it's just higher risk. Obviously, when
Yeah.
you do cosmetic things and if it doesn't work out perfectly, people don't love it. But we have one of the nation's top surgeons doing that. And so that's an aspect of the practice that we're building as well in this
Wow.
calendar year.
Okay, cool. That's very interesting. And have you installed or experimented with any AI tools for the practice yet?
We use scribes, for sure. And we're actually working with a startup that's working on some AI agents to help us accomplish some things like importing outside medical records or graphing labs on patients so that we can more easily track what's happening with them, especially as we do interventions.
Thing
That's all
like
been manual before, but
anything like an AI receptionist? Have you looked at anything like that?
no, that we haven't done yet. And it's sort of interesting because our patient volume is low and we're pretty high touch. And so I think we're probably, we kind of want people to touch, to have interaction with humans as often as possible. So we probably won't do that. We'll probably do things that are kind of more, like less visible to patients.
Yeah, for sure. I was speaking about after you close, like after office hours. It's used for like kind of like taking appointments. If
I see what
maybe
you're
you have
saying.
somebody that
Yeah.
needs a child's appointment after you close, and they're able to basically book onto your calendar without any human interaction whatsoever, and then they have an appointment for the next day.
Yeah, so we technically could already do that through our EMR, but actually the way we've set it up is like if there's a patient of mine that wants to see me tomorrow, they just call me that night and we figure out what time I can see them the next day. Again, I think it's because our volume is so low, we can.
But yeah, that gives me an idea. We need to increase that patient volume. That's for sure. Okay.
I mean,
Well,
we keep it low on purpose though. Like, we, um we we try to have no more than 100 patients per physician.
Okay, that's good.
So
Well, good thing you got plenty of them. Yeah. Okay, so now with that, I want to go ahead and transition over to the growth and systems, and I want to
mhm,
focus where the strain and the chaos shows up.
yeah.
When you're looking at your current patient acquisition process, what's the very first point of friction or strain that your team feels every day?
So that's a really good question. I think our biggest sticking point is just figuring out how to, how and where to get exposure to the type of patients that would be interested in the kind of practice that we have. It's not something that everybody would do. And we tend to find that word of mouth that has been our most effective way of being exposed to potential new patients. But I'm constantly trying to figure out if there's a better way to do it. Like if we can find the people that we need without, I don't know, like we're very, again, very bespoke and very personalized and very private. So in the way that we work with our patients, and so we're not very overt with like advertising, and
Of
so that
course.
I think that's
Yeah.
like a sticking point for us for how how to figure out the best quality outreach to find the patients that are interested in us.
Yeah. Do you do anything telemedicine? Do you do any teleconsults?
Yeah,
Yeah, because that's bespoke. It's also, you're direct to them, right? It's just,
yeah.
getting to them, right?
Yeah, we like to take care of our patients wherever they are. So if somebody is, traveling, if they're out of and our patients travel a lot, so we do a lot of conversations when people are not
Okay.
fixed in front of us. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. What do you think the biggest time sink is or repetitive task that distracts you and all your highly, highly paid practitioners from distracting from some, repetitive task, like a time sink? What would that and deliver and preventing them from delivering patient care? What do you think that would be? Would it be coming through medical records or what do you think?
Yeah, I do. I mean, especially when we onboard a new patient, like going through all the medical records. I mean, first of all, the staff bringing the medical records in is hugely time consuming, and then the practitioner going through the medical records, it's quite time consuming. And I think along the lines of what you were asking earlier, we are also looking at some agents that can, sort of like dig through the medical record and like create a summary so that
Yeah.
figure out where we need to look more deeply without having to read all 30,000 pages, because that takes a long time for a human.
Yeah, like an AI summary, like they could definitely do that. Like, I mean, ChatGPT can do that if that with any article in a second. So there's got to be something like that for medical as well, right?
Yeah, we're working on that. Obviously, like privacy is an issue, so we have to be really careful about who we're using and what we're putting, into LLMs.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's
There's a
something to
lot of
look into.
capability out there. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like a closed-end system, something that's not
Mhm.
connected to the internet, that might be viable for you, something that just stays in-house on that network of computers and not connected to the internet.
Yeah, and I think some of the, I believe the electronic medical record that we're using is working on one of these kinds of tools, and so then it's already on a HIPAA compliant platform it's housed in their server, but it's not, broadly. It can't, nobody can access it.
Yeah,
Us, so that would be
okay.
something that we'll look at if they're coming up with that.
All right. All right. What systems do you have in place to turn like a full first time consult of somebody that's just hearing about it, or maybe they were referred, to come in and check on, maybe it's just a general health checkup and turn them into a long term high value patient that returns for multiple treatments and multiple checkups throughout the year?
That is the key question. So I think that is all about the service delivery, I think. So the patient needs to have a great experience from their very first interface with us. So, whoever's answering the phone when they call needs to be professional and accomplish what needs to be accomplished on that phone call. If there's a problem to be solved, we want everybody to be able to solve the problem like right then and not have to kick the can down the road or take it up to a higher level. And then we need to be prepared when the patient comes in for their appointment so that they have, when they walk through the door, whoever's at the front desk stands up and walks around the desk and greets them and then takes them right away to the exam room. We try not to have people wait. We try to, the whole staff as well as the physician is very prepared for the patient when they come, and then we follow up with them. So we do this, very thorough. We have a very thorough experience do labs if they're needed. And then we follow up, we evaluate everything, send the patient follow up. We remind them what they need to do. We track our reminders. If we send the patient to a specialist or for labs or radiology stuff, we have all that on the calendar so that we can make sure it happens and then track the results, get the notes from any consultants. And then, we just kind of keep putting it together in a package for the patient so that we can say, okay, I saw this specialist yesterday and here's what they said. Or I might have even talked to them. Like I usually try to have a conversation with the consultant after they see my patient. So then I can say to the patient, here's my thoughts. What were your takeaways? And, let's figure out where we're going to go with this. So what we hope is that if we really deliver like the quality of care that we're striving to deliver, like that's going to keep the person coming back because they'll say, wow, I've never been taken care of like this before.
It's good. So patient experience, right? That first interaction. Okay,
Yep.
great.
And
Let's
then
talk
all of
about team and let's talk about leadership. What is your philosophy or delegating the core business functions like lead generation or appointment management versus keeping them in house?
so far we keep everything in house, I think, because we're really small and we haven't come across solutions that understand the nature of the business, I think, well enough to really do that. We have our values are
Okay.
patient primacy, increasing excellence, vibrant collaboration, and engendering gratitude. And so kind of everything we do, we run through the lens of those values. And if it's going to benefit our patient, but it's going to be horrible for the staff, that's not a good direction for us to go. Or if it's going to benefit the staff, but not work well for the patient,
Okay.
that's not the right direction to go. So, I don't know if I answered the exact question that you're
No,
asking,
it's
but
okay. I have a follow-up as well
okay.
to that.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So based on that, especially when it comes to balancing the need for their clinical expertise with the need for sales and conversion skills, how do you approach training and retention for the doctors with balancing that as well?
That is really a great question and something that we spend a lot of thought on and a lot of time on. I've been doing this for 20 years basically, but not everybody has. And so particularly when we bring in a new primary care physician, I really think they first, in order to communicate it effectively to a potential patient, they need to really understand what it is, like, and really understand the details of what we do and the value proposition of it because it's expensive, but there's a lot that's incorporated in that care that we provide.
And that's what insurance is for anyway, right?
Oh my goodness, I know. And we all know this too. Like insurance companies call all their payments like medical loss, and this is another one of the big challenges that my staff has is like medicines we order, tests we order, specialists we want our patients to see. Insurance companies just fight everything, and they make us do so much work before they'll approve it. And which I think in a traditional practice, a lot of people just run into a lot of hurdles because in a big practice, they don't have the bandwidth or the personal view of any individual patient to like really fight those battles all the way, take
Yeah.
it all the way to the mat and make it successful.
Now, beyond the treatment itself of the care for the children in terms of your specialty for the pediatrics, what is one part of the patient journey that you feel is most vulnerable to human error or inconsistency right now? And how do you measure the lifetime value of a patient and what's the most surprising factor that you found that contributes to long-term loyalty? I know there was like 3 questions in there.
So I mean, the first part of the question was vulnerability to error, and we're trying to
Yes.
solve that. One of the challenges that we've had is tracking patients' lab results over time because our electronic medical record doesn't do that. Like every time you go get the labs, like there's your labs from this time and there's your labs from that time. But in order for us to really see the trajectory of somebody's labs, we had to
Yeah.
create our own spreadsheet. So there's a huge opportunity for just error of like entering the wrong number when you're or putting the wrong number in the wrong field. So that's one of the places where we're working on developing an agent to do that lab graphing for us. And obviously not knowing, like having the wrong information about labs, just that's a huge risk, right? Because you're not going to do the right thing if you don't have the right data to start with.
Yeah.
I think another part of your question, I think, was about retention or do you want to go to
Yeah,
that? Or was
yeah,
there something in the
I
middle
was
that I forgot?
yeah, how do you measure the lifetime value of the patient?
I don't quite know how to answer that question. I mean, there's obviously like we could calculate, like the we could do the math of it and come up with a dollar amount. But what we think is that the longer a patient stays in our practice, that's evidence to us that the patient's having a good experience, and that's really where the value is, because somebody who is staying with us is probably more likely to say to somebody else, I have a great doctor. If they hear their friend is in need, you guys should talk to my doctor because they're great.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah, somebody that comes in as maybe a preteen and they're there all throughout their high school years, maybe until they're
Well, and they
17,
can
so a
transition to an
prepubescent.
adult medicine doctor
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
practice too, and that's one of the things I like about having both pediatric and adult medicine in the same place, so that when my patients graduate from college, if they wanna stay in the practice, I can transition them to an adult doctor who they may have met before, but then also all their records are still there, so, like, the kind of the institutional knowledge about that patient is still within the practice, as opposed to them having to recreate it with a brand new person in a whole different place.
What do you think that the most surprising factor is that you found that contributes to long-term loyalty? I think you answered this question before. It's superior care, right?
I think it's relationships. I really think that the doctor-patient relationship is kind of at the heart of it. I think patients are more loyal to the doctor than they are to the practice.
Yeah, I would agree.
As a practice, we have to provide extraordinary care, but of course, the patient is gonna hopefully see that as being spearheaded by their doctor, and in addition, they're gonna cultivate a relationship with that doctor over time, and that's the part where I think the value lies both for us and for the patient.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned earlier that your goal this year was to increase adult medicine, right? And to cover, obviously, the lights on, the mortgage, and everything like that. And if you looked at the business today, what do you think that the single heaviest anchor dragging that process and progress down is? Do you think it's lack of finding those solutions that integrates into the EMR that you were speaking about earlier? Do you think it's lack of the speed of the implementation of those AI tools to read medical records is? What do you think it is?
I don't think we've even though both of those things that you mentioned are really important, I don't think that we've kind of hit a volume where the rate limiting factor is at either of those steps. But we are in a market that's pretty saturated in adult concierge medicine, so I think that's part of it. So, we need to create the opportunity to, expose the right people to what we do. I think what we do is pretty compelling once people know about it. So we're just trying to figure out like how to again like get in front of the right people.
Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be a unique market. It is a marketing thing. You're hinting at it. It is a marketing thing, but it has to be done in the right way is what you're. Yeah. So it's not a people problem, it's a system process problem. Am I right?
I think so. I really think that we have the right people. It is obviously still relevant to make sure that the doctors are providing the service that we say we're providing. So that's part of, first of all, hiring the right doctors and then making sure that everybody's trained and is
Yeah.
bought into the mission and the values and the style of practice that we have.
Are you doing anything like I know well, are you doing any type of ads or anything like that? Like anything Meta, Facebook, anything like that to try to attract new patients or attract new, pediatric clients in?
We had We had an AdWords campaign, like a Google AdWords campaign.
Wow, the Google AdWords.
I
Wow, I
know,
heard
that's,
those are
like,
really
so
expensive.
retro now, right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
they
it's
are retro too.
like no. So, what we're doing currently, we don't really like, there's some local sort of, like, luxury magazines that reach out to us, like, "Do you wanna put an ad in our magazine?" But I kind of again, I don't I'm
Wow,
not
print? Is that what you said?
I
Print?
know, can you believe it? I'm
Wow,
like, "I don't
throwback to the
know."
prints.
I know.
Hey, if it works, if people read it,
I
it's
think all
same
those go
thing.
in the round file, that's what I think. So anyway, I just think it's funny. Um, yeah, so we're not doing a very much. We're trying to, just make sure that the website is, up to date and that we're findable.
Yeah, yeah, maybe some SEO.
Yeah, we're working on that. Again, like what the SEO people want you to do is put all this stuff, all this content on your website, but we actually want our website to be like really trim and, sort of like very low key and, elegant, efficient, not verbose, not sales pitchy. So I don't want all
Yeah.
that stuff on the website. Like it,
Well, here's the thing about SEO. You don't need to put that stuff on your website to rank higher in search engines. You just need backlinks and stuff
yeah,
like that. And I know outside companies and some other tools to actually do that without having to change the content on the websites.
yeah. So that we're actually working with somebody right now on that part on the sitemap and trying to
Okay.
figure it
Well,
out. Yeah.
that's fantastic breakdown. Well, you know what, Janesta, I really appreciate you for being so candid about your operational reality. We have covered a lot of ground today, from your origin story to the future of aesthetic medicine. And I know that our audience personally is going to get a lot of value from this. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the recorded portion of the Growth Lab. Bye bye now.
Perfect. Right. Bye bye.